Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. So this is the first video of the Swahili diary series that I want to do, and basically what I want to do with this series is show you guys basically the daily process of how I learn a language, the method I use, which resources I use, how I use them, and basically have it be like an area for us to share the resources, especially I think for these languages that are not usually learnt in general. So I'm learning Swahili, but if you guys are learning any other one, I'd love to hear about it. So I'm basically in these videos where I talk to the camera and I'm not showing you exactly what I'm doing in my laptop. I'm just basically going to tell you how I feel, what I'm noticing, and how I feel like I'm improving throughout the process. So right now I'm just going to tell you generally what I've been doing. So for the past, I think it's 3 to 4 weeks, what I've been doing is 2 lessons of language transfer because I really like that course. It worked really well for me learning Spanish. Alongside that, I do about 6 to 7 lessons of Duolingo, and I also use a certain website that I'm going to show you in a bit to go through the dialogues that I use. And the dialogues I'm using right now are from LinguaBoost, and I really like them because they're really short. It gives me audio content to listen to pretty early on in the language learning journey, which I didn't have with Spanish. So that's pretty cool. And so yeah, I'll show you exactly how I go through those dialogues. But it's 2 lessons of language transfer, a few lessons of Duolingo, and a few and going through those dialogues. And yeah, so what the videos are going to be like is I'm going to show you when I'm noticing things, so when I'm doing Duolingo or the dialogues, how I'm noticing patterns, and then linking them to language transfer or the other courses I'm going to do, which I'm going to show you in a bit, and then basically how I link the explanations with the natural content, and then hopefully you'll see me go from basically nothing to a place where hopefully I can have a conversation, I can understand most of what I'm reading and listening to. And yeah, basically the whole point of this is for you to see like the specific activities that I do, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Okay, so basically what I did before I even started Swahili, because Swahili is not like Spanish in the sense that Spanish had a lot of content, and I didn't really need to research any videos or YouTube channels or podcasts or anything like this before. But for Swahili, I needed to just to see if it's actually a language I can actually learn. Um, so basically, what I did was I basically went through the entire internet trying to find content, and I found these things, for example. And I basically let's go back. I just basically put them in files. So A1 to A2 content, kind of more like learner content. The B1 content a bit harder, and then the B2 content is really like TV shows. I'll show you things like audiobooks, TV shows, articles, um, YouTube channels. That kind of basically it tends to be things like podcasts without transcriptions, articles without audio, TV shows without subtitles, things like that. Unfortunately, I couldn't find like a series with subtitles that I can use, which is just the way it's going to be for Swahili, and I don't know how I'm going to deal with that when I come to this part. Uh, but I guess you'll find out. But yeah, like right now I'm going through A1 to A2 content. All of these are children's books that I found on Amazon, and a few other Lingua Boost that I'm using right now, and other things as well. Um, Other bits and bobs, and basically yeah. And so I also kind of like found dictionaries and don't think I'm going to use this, nor am I think I'm going to use the grammar resources. Um, and then yeah, so this is phase one resources, basically either Pimsleur or language transfer, and I chose language transfer because I think it's the best. And phase two is just either colloquial or teach yourself, and I think I'm going to use teach yourself. And phase three tends to just be Glossica. And maybe I use that, maybe I don't. I didn't use it that much for Spanish, but I think I might need to use it a lot for Swahili, just because you just want to use all the content you can, because I don't have that much, and so yeah, that's basically how I do this. This was the website I was talking to you about earlier. It's called Language Tools, and they have a reading tool. And I'm not gonna show you too much of Lingua Boost because it is a paid course, but I can show you some of the mini stories that they have. If I just so this is the mini stories they have, and as you can see, basically you have the subtitles. This is a bit of an like the last one. It's episode 40, so but yeah, so basically you have the subtitles. When you want to see what something means, you click on it and it gives you the definition, and you can put it either learning or known, etc. It's really similar to Link, if any of you are familiar with that, but it has Swahili, and so that's why I'm using it, because I'm really used to this kind of format. So if any of you are learning Swahili or any other language that's like not one of the most learned languages, I'd really like to hear from your experiences, any resources that you'd recommend, and how you guys are finding it in general. And I'd really like to see what you guys think of what I'm doing to learn it. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to do this like every 3 to 4 weeks, upload a video that kind of just sums up what I've been doing in that 3 to 4 weeks, just so the videos don't become really, really long. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy. So I just wanted to show you one of the examples of pattern recognition. This is one that I got from Duolingo, and it was the fact that I noticed that the word ni was used for the plural. So for example, these books are good, as well as the singular. And I remember thinking, that's a pattern, because usually in the other languages I know, it's not like that. Usually there's are, or there is. And so right now in the course, he just mentioned this. So sometimes I feel like I get the patterns from listening and reading, and then sometimes it's explained and then you notice it in the listening and reading. But it's really cool when you've noticed it and then someone explains it to you, because you already have you've already been exposed to it. So yeah, just wanted to mention some thoughts right now, being in track 44 of the language transfer course. The majority of what he says, like, I'm getting and I'm following along. A lot of it I've seen in the kind of like the very beginner content that I'm using, the mini dialogues that I'm using to get some natural content, as well as the Duolingo lessons that I'm doing. But of course, there's always those points, those kind of things that he's mentioning that are a bit more complicated. But I'm not worrying too much about them, because I know through a lot of exposure to the language later on with more natural material, they'll be repeated so many times that you'll just become getting used to them. So I just want to stress the point that, like, if you don't understand something straight away, that it's okay, because it'll be repeated many times. You'll see it in different contexts, and it's just the idea of like being exposed to a pattern, or at least that's just how I find it's the best way to do it. That being said, the course writer really does encourage you to think a lot and to review a lot of the patterns that he's already spoken about, by giving you sentences to say that like reinforce what he's just told you, as well as like reviewing what he's told you maybe lessons and lessons before. So you always feel like you have a really good grip on what's happening in general. And yeah, and I think accompanied with Duolingo and the dialogues that I'm using, it really, really is great. Literally just finished I just finished a lesson in language transfer that went through the pattern of the plural, like speaking about the plural. And this is a sentence in Duolingo right now. It's saying you are good cooks. So let's see if I can try it. So I tried, because the nini is the plural for like you guys. Ni could be used for, like, as I said, you guys. Mipishi, kano impishi is cook, so mipishi should be the plural. And then mzuri is good, referring to an M noun, so mizuri should be it. So let's see. Wapishi wazuri. So that's interesting. So the plural becomes the wa, which is the same use for like them. So I guess which is always recycled. That them for you plural, and them for like them. So this is just another example, trying to like apply what I just learnt. Wow, them, ni are watu. So doing the WA and not the M, which I did before. And let's see. Good times. To show you an example of a pattern that I've recognized right now, but that I don't really have an explanation for. For example, there's been loads of examples of something that's mine, like my book, or like my sister, like dada yangu. Now I've seen the word for mine be yangu, wangu, zangu, changu, I think maybe other ones. And I know this is to do with the noun classes, but I still don't fully understand which one corresponds with which. So hopefully later on I'll be able to show you when it's explained in language transfer, possibly, or in another course that I do later on, when I actually have this kind of understood. Because right now, your balls is yenu. So mipira, yenu. Mipira is balls, but yenu is yours. So I'm really interested to see why do they begin with Y, W, and all of this. Another example of a pattern that I noticed here that I don't really understand fully is the use of ya. Here it's used a bit different with via. which obviously I also don't understand, but ya seems to be like of or like relating to something. Example of something that's mine that's with an L. I wanted to use this point as an example. This word is kunawa, which means to wash, but specifically to wash one's hands. Now, obviously, in English, you just say to wash your hands or to wash something else. And there's other words to wash in Swahili as well. But I just wanted to kind of highlight the importance of like when I learn another language, I kind of empty any preconceptions that I have of like how things should be said or how things shouldn't be said. So then I can accept their way of saying things. And so to wash one's hand, if that's a verb, then you start to understand, like you start to absorb it. This is one of the dialogues from the Lingua Boost course that I'm using, and I remember the first time that I heard it, I didn't understand what was going on. But now I'm able to break it down because of like what I learned from the course. So like the you is you, mesha means have already, funga I'm guessing now means close, and then marriage. So have you closed marriage, which basically means have you got married, and obviously that's like a different way of expressing it. And so yeah, it's just cool to see the connection of like you've already had the explanation, and then you come back to the content, and then you can start to notice patterns a bit more. At this point, I've listened to like lessons 1 to 30, possibly about 15 times over and over again. But this is the first time that I actually go over the subtitles or like the transcripts. And it's interesting to see like you've listened to it so many times, and now when you do it, it just clicks better. And now I'm sure when I go back to listen to it again, everything's going to click better and be reinforced much more strongly. I just wanted to show this one part of the course because I felt like it represented my whole philosophy of language learning pretty well.
Is place one together, pamoja. So if you are constantly looking, always looking in Swahili to remind yourself of what you know, you will find countless examples of it in the way that the language is built. You will be able to constantly revise what you know with every new thing you come across. Pamoja.
I just wanted to talk about something else that I noticed here when I was doing Duolingo. One pattern that I saw was how this idea of possession that I haven't really done in the course up there yet, the language transfer course. So things like mine and yours. So I realized that to say something that's yours, you say wako. To say something that's his or hers, you say wake. And that wa can change as well to yako, yake, depending on the noun. And again, I'm not too familiar with how the noun classes work when it comes to that. And so, yeah, it's just like I've noticed something and I'm just kind of waiting for the course to come explain it. And after you've done this, I feel like I'm really like ripe and ready to receive an explanation so it all makes sense after already being exposed to it and noticing the patterns. So I just want to show again like one of the patterns that I noticed in like the dialogues I'm listening to in the Duolingo that I've been doing. This idea of mine, the possession. So yangu, wangu, zangu. I just knew that angu's always there, but there's always like a random letter in the start to do with the noun classes that I don't know about. And here in the course,
actually, the word for my isn't yangu, it's angu. The Y is just matching, for example, with kazi. We have a...
And so he starts to explain it. And so, yeah. So what I hope to achieve from this is now that I know the explanation, when I go back to using the dialogues in the Duolingo, I'll start to notice a bit more why yangu, zangu, wangu, changu, whatever it is, what noun is it referring to, and start to understand the noun classes a bit more because it's one of the things that's quite new for me in Swahili. Something else that I noticed in the dialogues I've been listening to is Nina Penda means I like, but Nina Pendelea means I prefer. And so that opened the concept that some verbs sound very much alike and that they have meanings that are quite similar as well. And right now in the course, he just gave another example of that. So slowly I'm getting the patterns of possibly changing the end of the to form of a verb, and of course the other forms as well, can lead to a different meaning that's quite similar. Just wanted to show you some of the dialogues that I've been using with Lingua Boost. So there's some things here that I can understand. Obviously everything in white that I already know, and there's something in the greens that I already know as well. But as you can see here, mchana or chakula, right there. Cha means of, but it could be ya, za, wa, and so I'm starting to see how like it can match the noun classes again. but there's also things that I really, really don't know, like this sentence that I just listened to here. And so, in general, I like this kind of level of content. I feel like no matter which level I'm in, I'll always be finding content where I understand a lot, but I also don't understand. Like, there's always a percentage you understand, there's a percentage you don't. Because that allows you to understand what's being said, but at the same time, I think learn new things. So just wanting to pick up on that note that I made before about adding something to the end of the verb, making it a different meaning but quite similar. For example, right now, he's talking about how if you add honor at the end of a verb, it's kind of like the reflexive in Spanish, or it's like they've done it together or with each other or to each other, that kind of meaning.